Welcome tonight. You and I will step quietly into the great expanse, a place where time drifts and light keeps moving. Even when we close our eyes. In this chapter, the endless journey, we will follow a single thread of light. It leaves the heart of a distant star, crossing a darkness so wide that it cannot be measured in days or years, but only in the patience of eternity. I invite you to let your thoughts slow, to feel each moment as gently as the glow of a candle in the night. The light we will follow has traveled for ages, carrying the quiet stories of the universe. And tonight, it will carry you too. If you find peace here, I would love for you to join me again. A soft tap on the like button. Let me know you are here. Subscribing means we can explore together week after week. And when you share this with someone you care about, you send this light just a little farther. I would love to hear your reflections. As well, what the endless journey means to you. You can leave your thoughts gently in the comments below. Now, settle in. Let your breathing match the slow turning of the stars. And let us begin. You begin in the quiet darkness before dawn. Then, somewhere far away, a single ray of light begins its journey toward you. You trace its path in your imagination, across space, through air, touching your eyes. This is the first step toward understanding why light moves the way it does. Each photon is like a messenger, whispering secrets from the universe. It begins with stillness. The kind of stillness that is so deep it almost hums, the sound of a world not yet awake. The air around you is cool, and the shadows stretch long, unbroken. There is no rush here, no urgency, only the soft cradle of night lingering in its final moments. You sit quietly in this darkness, feeling its texture. Darkness is not empty. It is full of quiet possibilities, like a blank canvas holding every color you could imagine, yet to be painted. Your breathing is slow, your thoughts soft. Somewhere above, stars still twinkle faintly, their ancient light spilling down through the thinning veil of night. Then, far beyond anything you can see, something happens. A photon, a tiny particle of light, is released. Perhaps from the surface of the sun, a star of fire and fusion, nearly 150 million kilometers away. Perhaps from the distant edge of the galaxy, where stars are strangers to one another, yet bound by the same cosmic laws. Wherever it begins, this photon does not hesitate. It is not tentative. It knows only one thing. It must move forward. It slips away from its birthplace with no baggage, no weight to slow it down. In the dark vacuum of space, there is nothing to block its path. No air, no dust, no wind, just a great ocean of emptiness. And in that emptiness, light moves at the same astonishing pace it always has, about 300,000 kilometers per second. It is so fast that in a single second, it could travel around the Earth more than 7 times. Yet it never feels hurried. To light, this is not speed. This is simply its way of being. You imagine the photon gliding, steady and unchanging, through space. Its journey is not straight in the way you might think. Space is not rigid. It bends and curves under the influence of gravity, like a sheet of fabric holding the weight of planets and stars. And so, this photon's path may curve slightly, following the shapes carved by massive objects it passes along the way. But still, it does not slow. Your mind drifts, picturing the photon's surroundings. Out here, distances are vast beyond measure. For every lonely particle of dust, there are stretches of emptiness so great they could swallow entire worlds. And yet, this emptiness is not meaningless. It is the stage on which the drama of the universe unfolds, where light, gravity, and time perform their endless dance. After 8 minutes and 20 seconds, the time it takes for sunlight to reach Earth, your imagined photon finally touches the edge of our atmosphere. Now, its path changes subtly. Space gives way to air, and air has texture, movement, and weight. Molecules of nitrogen and oxygen greet the photon, scattering some of its companions in all directions. Some of that scattered light becomes the pale blue of the morning sky you will soon see. But this photon continues forward, passing through the moving currents of air. It does not tire. It does not age, because for a photon, time itself behaves differently. In the way the universe is built, a photon experiences no passage of time between the moment it is created and the moment it is absorbed. From its own perspective, the journey from sun to earth happens in an instant. Even though you perceive it as minutes now, in your mind's eye, you follow this photon all the way down. It may pass through the leaf of a tree, striking the green, chlorophyll within, and beginning the process of photosynthesis, the quiet chemistry that feeds the plant and, ultimately, you. Or it may land on the surface of a stone, warming it just enough for a small insect to begin its day. Or perhaps, just perhaps, it will find its way into your eye. When it does, the moment is almost magical. The photon meets the curved surface of your cornea, bends slightly, and passes through the clear lens inside your eye. There, it is focused onto the thin layer of cells at the back, the retina. Special molecules inside those cells absorb the photon's energy, and in that instant, its long journey ends. The energy becomes a tiny electrical signal, racing along your optic nerve into your brain dot in your brain. This signal does not announce itself with fanfare. It arrives quietly, joining countless other signals from both eyes. Your brain weaves them together, layering them with memory, meaning, and color until they become the picture you see in front of you. And so, the photon story becomes part of your own, a whisper from the universe, transformed into sight. You breathe in, feeling the gentle wonder of it. The light you see now began its journey long before you noticed it. Yet in your perception, it arrives in the present moment. You cannot see the movement of light, only its arrival, its gift of visibility. This is the first glimmer, not only the first light of morning, but the first step in understanding. The speed of light is not just a number in a textbook. It is a boundary drawn by the very structure of reality. It is the way the universe keeps its time. Every ray you see is moving at the same speed, whether it comes from the sun, a distant quasar, or the glow of a candle beside your bed. But why? Why should light have a speed at all? And why should that speed be the same everywhere? This is the question that will guide you deeper. The answer lies not only in the nature of light, but in the fabric that carries it. The vast, invisible web of space and time. For now, you stay with the stillness of morning. You notice the faint shift in the air, the way the dark turns a softer shade, as though someone has brushed a thin layer of silver across the sky. Light gathers quietly, painting the edges of clouds, seeping into the folds of the world. Each photon arrives without fuss, yet together they transform everything. Begin to see that light is more than brightness. It is information. Every ray tells you where it has been and what it has touched. It carries the history of stars, the fingerprints of atoms, the shape of the space it has traveled through. It is a messenger that does not lose its way. And just as you are thinking of this, a deeper curiosity stirs. If light is a messenger, then space is the road it travels, and roads have rules. You cannot understand the journey without understanding the path. Space is not the empty nothing it appears to be. It has structure, and that structure holds the answer to light's constant speed. You let this thought settle in your mind like a pebble dropped into a still pond. Ripples of curiosity spread out from it, gentle but unending. Somewhere in those ripples lies the next chapter of the story, the quiet revelation that the ground beneath you is not simply solid earth, but part of an immense and flexible fabric that cradles both space and time. The darkness is fading now, and the first true beam of sunlight warms your face. It is a reminder that the journey of understanding has already begun. Light has touched you, and through it, you have touched the universe. And somewhere, in the space between your thoughts, a question waits. If light moves so faithfully, so perfectly, through all the cosmos, what is it moving through? You feel the ground, but you also imagine the invisible fabric beneath it, space itself. This fabric has rules gentle yet unbreakable. You learn that the speed of light is not just about light, but about the way space and time are woven together. It's like water flowing in a riverbed that cannot change shape. You stand in the quiet of early morning. The light from the first chapter still lingers on your skin, a warm touch from a traveler that has crossed the emptiness of space. The earth feels solid beneath your feet, steady and unmoving. You think you know it, soil, stone, the weight of the world pressing gently upward to meet your body. But the more you listen to that stillness, the more you sense that there is something deeper than stone under you, something unseen. Not solid, not liquid, not air, but a kind of foundation that holds everything in place. Even the stars dot, it is the fabric of space itself. We often picture space as empty, a vast nothingness between planets and suns. But this nothing is not truly nothing. It is a field, a medium, a stage upon which the entire drama of the cosmos plays out. Imagine a sheet of silk, stretched wide in every direction. Upon it rest marbles, pebbles, and great, heavy spheres. Each one presses into the silk, bending and curving it. If you try to roll another marble across the sheet, it will curve toward the larger spheres, following the shape that the fabric has taken. This is the way gravity works, not as a mysterious invisible string pulling on things, but as the bending of space itself. The sun does not pull the earth as if by a rope. Instead, it rests heavily in the fabric of space, curving it. The earth moves along this curve, caught not by force, but by the natural shape of the road it travels. You close your eyes and try to imagine this fabric beneath your feet. You are not standing on solid stone alone. You are resting on an immense, invisible geometry, a structure that holds planets in their orbits, guides the paths of comets, and even determines how light moves. Light is a special traveler across this fabric. It has no mass to weigh it down, no means to step off the road. It follows the curves of space perfectly, not because it chooses to, but because it cannot do anything else. Its speed, that constant, unchanging speed we spoke of before, is not set by light itself, but by the fabric through which it moves. It is as if the universe has laid down a perfect riverbed, and all light flows along it at the same pace. No matter where it begins or where it ends, you bend down and touch the ground, knowing that the rules governing the soil beneath your hand are the same ones that govern the farthest galaxies. The space under your feet is part of a continuous whole, not separate from the space around the moon or the space between the stars. It is all one connected sheet, and you are standing on it. In your mind, the image widens. You picture the sheet stretching not just across the earth, but in every direction, without edge or seam. It is not truly flat. It bends and warps where massive things exist. Near the sun, the fabric dips deeply. Near the earth, it folds gently. Near a black hole, it plunges steeply, as if space itself were falling away into darkness. The speed of light is written into the weave of this fabric. It is not a choice the light makes, nor a rule imposed from outside. It is a property of the fabric itself, the way the threads of space and time are stitched together. And here's a curious truth. Space and time are not separate things. They are one, a single fabric called space-time. You open your eyes and see the world with new softness. the hills and trees before you seem to float on this invisible foundation. The air between you and them is part of it. So is the space between the moon and Earth. So is the stretch between the stars you glimpsed in the last chapter. To understand why light's speed is constant, you must understand how this fabric behaves. If the sheet of silk in your mind could ripple, twist, or change its weave, the motion of light across it would also change. But in our universe, the weave is fixed in a way that makes light's speed the same for everyone, everywhere. Whether you are moving toward the source of light or away from it, whether the source is on Earth or in a distant galaxy, the speed you measure will be exactly the same. It is a strange, almost unsettling thought. In the everyday world, speeds add together. If you walk forward inside a moving train, your walking speed adds to the train's speed. But light is different. It plays by the rules of space-time, not the rules of trains and footsteps. No matter how fast you move toward it or away from it, you will always find it racing past at that same pace, 300,000 kilometers per second. And this constant is not just a quirk. It changes everything. Because the speed of light is woven into space-time, it also defines how time itself flows. The faster you move through space, the slower you move through time, as if your share of motion must be divided between the two. The speed of light is the limit because it is the full measure of motion through space-time, the fastest possible way to move from one moment to the next. You take a slow breath, letting that settle. The ground feels different now, even though it has not changed. You realize that beneath your feet is not just earth and stone, but a living geometry that bends under mountains, swells gently under oceans, and curves in the presence of every star. It is not alive in the way you are alive, but it is dynamic, responsive, and in its own way, elegant. If you could see it directly, the fabric would shimmer and ripple with the movements of everything in the universe. The passing of planets would send gentle waves through it, faint and slow. The collision of black holes would send sharp, strong waves racing outward at, of course, the speed of light. You feel as if you are standing on the edge of a great discovery. The speed limit of light is no longer just a number. It is a window into the way reality is built. You understand now that to know light's limit is to know something profound about space and time themselves. The morning light is brighter now, filling the world with quiet gold. It runs along the curves of hills, across the bend of rivers, through the air that swirls gently in front of you. All of it, the hills, the rivers, the air, rests on the same invisible fabric. All of it moves according to its gentle but unbreakable rules. And here, at the edge of this thought, another begins to form. If time and space are part of the same fabric, then time too must bend and stretch. And if the speed of light is tied to the weave of space-time, then understanding light will also mean understanding time's own flow. The fabric beneath your feet is quiet, but in that quiet, there is an invitation to follow its threads, to see where they lead, to find how they connect the moments of your life to the deep patterns of the cosmos. You picture time as a slow river carrying you forward. But when light moves, it touches time in a special way, bending and stretching it. You drift along with the thought that perhaps light is the loom on which time's fabric is woven, and that its speed is part of the pattern itself. You stand still, yet the world moves. Not just the earth beneath your feet, turning on its axis, circling the sun, but something deeper. You feel it in a way that is almost impossible to put into words. The steady, invisible flow that carries all things from one moment to the next. This is time. It is not loud or insistent. It does not demand your attention. And yet, it is always there, as constant as your breathing, as sure as the pull of gravity. You cannot stop it. You cannot reverse it. You can only move with it, the way a leaf drifts downstream. Imagine time as a river. Its surface glints in sunlight, its current gentle but unyielding. You are carried along, not by choice, but by the nature of the river itself. Every moment you live is a point on this flowing path. You can remember the places you have passed, but you cannot turn back toward them. You can see the ripples ahead, but you cannot touch them until they arrive. But now, as you imagine this river, you begin to notice something unusual. Not all travelers move through time at the same pace. Most of us drift at the same steady speed, pulled along together. Yet there is a special kind of traveler that touches the river differently. Light. Light does not simply float downstream. It moves in a way that changes the river itself. Because light moves at the highest possible speed, allowed by the universe, its relationship with time is unlike anything you've experienced. For a photon, a particle of light, there is no passage of time at all. From its creation to its arrival, the journey is instantaneous in its own frame of reference. The river does not flow for light. Instead, the river bends around it. You stand at the edge of this thought, letting it ripple outward. If time is a river, then space is the land it flows through. Together, they form the great landscape of space-time. The path of light is not just through space, but through both space and time at once, and the way it moves tells you something profound about the shape of that landscape. Einstein once imagined riding alongside a beam of light. If you could keep pace with it, though you never could, you would find something strange. Time, as you know it, would slow and stretch. The faster you move through space, the slower you move through time. This is not an illusion. It is the way space-time is woven, and light is the thread that sets the weave. You can think of space-time as a vast loom. The warp threads run in one direction, time. The weft threads cross them, space. Light, always moving at its set speed, determines the tension in those threads. It is the pattern maker, the one constant against which all motion is measured. Close your eyes and imagine this loom. It is immense, far larger than anything you could ever see. Each thread is fine and perfect, stretching without end. Some threads curve gently, bent by the presence of mass, a planet, a star, a galaxy. The light glides along these curves, always at the same speed, yet the path it takes can change shape. And here is where the river and the loom meet. When space curves, time curves with it. If you are deep within a gravity, well, near a massive planet, for example, time moves more slowly for you compared to someone far away in emptier space. This effect is small in everyday life, but in the presence of something immensely heavy, like a black hole, it becomes extreme. To someone watching, from a distance, your clock would tick more slowly. To you, everything would feel normal. You would still feel the gentle pull of the river, unaware that, compared to others, you are moving through it at a different rate, that the constant speed of light is the key that unlocks these differences. Because light's pace never changes, the universe must adjust space and time themselves to keep that speed constant. If you move faster through space, you move more slowly through time, as if the universe is balancing an equation, keeping the total motion through space-time unchanged. You take a slow breath and feel a strange comfort in this balance. It means there is order here, not the rigid order of a clock ticking on a wall, but the graceful order of tides, of seasons, of the slow turning of planets. The speed of light is not just a number. It is a harmony between space and time. Your thoughts drift back to the river. You picture a boat that moves quickly downstream, its wake changing the flow of water around it. Now imagine a boat so fast that the water itself rearranges to keep the boat's speed steady. That is what happens when anything approaches the speed of light. The river of time bends to assure the boat cannot move faster than that ultimate limit. The morning has grown brighter. You notice how the light falls differently now. Longer shadows, sharper edges. These patterns are also part of time's fabric, the daily rhythm written into Earth's turning. Time is not just a grand cosmic concept. It is also the small, familiar cycles you live within. The tilt of the planet creates seasons. Its rotation creates day and night. The moon's pull shapes tides. All of these are threads woven into the larger tapestry. You realize that you are a part of this fabric, too. Every heartbeat, every breath, every step you take is a measure of time's passage. You are carried by the same river as the stars, the same current that pulls galaxies slowly apart. The speed of light connects your life to the furthest edge of the universe, because no matter how far away something is, the only way you can know it exists is by the light it sends to you. And yet, light's role is not only to reveal space, but to define time. Without light's constant speed, clocks would tick differently in different places. The rhythm of the cosmos would fracture, and the river would lose its steady flow. You open your eyes, and for a moment, you imagine you can see the threads themselves. Fine lines stretching from horizon to horizon, shimmering softly. They vibrate with the passage of time, moving all things forward. You are not separate from them. You are woven into them, as much a part of the pattern as the mountains and the clouds. You let the thought settle like silt at the bottom of the river. Light is not just a traveler through time. It is time's companion, its measure, its anchor. And when you watch light, you are not only seeing across space, you are seeing along the threads of time itself. A breeze stirs, and you feel it as a gentle reminder. The fabric of space-time is not rigid. It bends, it stretches. The next step in your journey will be to see how light moves through that bending, how the curves of space shape its path, and how even the fastest traveler must follow the lines drawn by the universe. You imagine light as a traveler with no need to stop. It has no mass, no hunger, no weight to slow it. But because of this, it must move at exactly the same pace. Never faster, never slower. The universe cradles it in this perfect balance. A law written into reality itself. You follow the thread of time into the next thought, a vision of a traveler who never pauses. No luggage, no body to tire, no need for rest. It moves endlessly, never quickening, never slowing, its pace set. Not by choice, but by the nature of existence itself. This traveler is light. It does not know what it means to wait. It does not know what it means to hurry. It is born moving, and it will continue moving until it is absorbed, perhaps by your eye, perhaps by a leaf, perhaps by a grain of sand on a distant shore. You imagine meeting this traveler at the very moment it begins its journey. Perhaps it bursts free from the sun's surface, born of a reaction so vast and hot you cannot stand near it. Or perhaps it escapes from the edge of a distant star in another galaxy, a place whose name you will never know. Wherever it begins, light's story is always the same. It moves at the same speed, always. 300,000 kilometers every second, no more, no less. It is as if the universe has taken its hand and said, "This is your pace, and it will never change." Why? Because light has no mass. Mass is the quality that allows objects to be slowed or stopped. It gives them weight, inertia, a kind of reluctance to change their motion. You have mass. So does the planet beneath you. So does every pebble, every drop of water. To make these things move, energy must be spent. And when they move through space, they can speed up or slow down depending on forces acting on them. But light is different. Without mass, there is nothing to resist its movement. Yet paradoxically, there is also nothing to let it go any faster. It is already moving at the maximum speed the universe allows. It is like a river that has reached its steepest possible slope. It cannot flow faster without changing the shape of the land itself. You picture light slipping through the universe like a silver thread, weaving everything together. From the faint glow of fireflies to the roar of distant quasars, every beam moves at this same steady pace. The rules that guide it are not written in any book or carved into stone. They are part of the structure of space-time itself. This steadiness is not boring. It is a kind of perfection. Imagine if light's speed could change. The image in your mirror would shift and warp with your heartbeat. The colors of the sunset would arrive at different times, breaking apart like scattered beads. The moon's glow would flicker and tremble. The universe would lose its harmony. Instead, the constancy of light is a quiet assurance. You can look at a star and know that the light reaching you has been on its way for years, centuries, or millennia, and that it has traveled without deviation in speed. It has crossed the folds of space, bent around the curves of gravity, and still kept its pace, as if it carried the memory of the laws that shaped it. This constancy also means light is the perfect messenger. It carries information about where it came from. The colors tell you the temperature of the star that made it. Its spectrum reveals the elements within that star. Its arrival time reveals the distance it has traveled. It does not blur these messages with haste or delay. Every photon holds a precise record of its journey, written in its very nature. And yet, light is not invincible. It can be blocked, absorbed, scattered, turned into heat. When this happens, its journey ends and it is transformed. But until that moment, it is relentless. It will cross the gulfs between stars. It will pierce the thin atmosphere of a planet. It will travel through oceans of interstellar dust. The thought is almost comforting. There is something in the universe that does not tire. Something that simply is. A movement so perfect that it does not need to rest. You imagine yourself as this messenger, released into the vastness. You would have no sense of time passing. The moment you left your source would be the same as the moment you arrived. The river of time that carries you now would no longer flow for you. You would be the thread that stitches its banks together. For you, as light, distance would be meaningless. Whether your destination is the length of a room away or the span of a galaxy, the journey would feel instantaneous. And yet, from the perspective of those waiting for you, you might have traveled for thousands, even millions of years. The morning around you brightens. You see how every ray of sunlight is a piece of this story. The warmth on your hand is light that began its journey before you took your first breath. It touched the surface of the sun, slipped through the vacuum of space, and arrived here exactly on schedule, neither late nor early. And because light is the fastest possible traveler, it also marks the ultimate boundary. Nothing with mass can ever match its speed. The closer you try to move at light's pace, the more your own time slows. The more your mass effectively increases, until reaching the speed of light would require infinite energy. That is the universe's quiet but absolute rule. This is the limit dot, but this limit is not a cage. It is a balance. It ensures that causality, the simple order of cause and effect, remains unbroken. If signals could travel faster than light, they could outrun time itself, and events could occur before their causes. The universe, in its silent wisdom, does not permit this. Light's speed is not only about motion. It is about keeping the fabric of reality intact. You watch the world now with new awareness. Every color you see, every shadow that falls, every glimmer on a river's surface, all of it is delivered by messengers that have traveled at the same speed, carrying their information faithfully. You live in a constant exchange of light, receiving it from your surroundings and reflecting it back. There is poetry in the fact that light itself has no sense of time, yet it is the very thing by which you measure time. The ticking of atomic clocks depends on the behavior of light. The synchronization of satellites, the navigation of ships, the communication between distant places, all of it depends on the constancy of this messenger. the thought rests in. Your mind like a small stone on a calm lakebed. To know light's journey is to know something about the universe's heart. It is to understand that some rules are not negotiable, not because they are enforced, but because they are built into the foundation itself. And now you begin to sense the next question, stirring beneath the surface of your thoughts. If light always moves at this perfect pace, what happens when the very road it travels, the fabric of space, begins to curve and twist? How does the messenger find its way when the map itself is bending? Now you see the bigger truth. This is not just the speed of light. It is the fastest that anything can travel. Even messages between atoms, even the pull of gravity, obey this same rule. You feel the comfort in limits, the way they give the cosmos its shape and harmony. It is the sealing of motion, the quiet law that even the wildest forces cannot break. And in knowing it, you begin to sense the structure of the universe itself. You rest in the dark, eyes closed, feeling the quiet hum of your own breathing. Somewhere, deep inside, you imagine the universe breathing too, slowly, steadily, across gulfs of time. You picture stars scattered across a vast and endless sky, each one shining with light that travels, unfailingly, at the same unyielding pace. This speed, the speed of light, is not just a number on paper. It is a rule woven into the bones of reality. A limit, a boundary, a final horizon for motion. If you could send a message across space, a single word, a whisper meant for a star 1 billion miles away, that whisper could never travel faster than light. Not even the smallest particle, not even the pull of gravity, can outpace it. It is as if the universe itself has drawn a line in the sand and said, "This far, no further." You feel this rule not as a harsh restriction, but as a gentle hand on the shoulder. There is a comfort in knowing that something is constant, unchanging, universal. It does not waver with the seasons, does not grow tired, does not hurry or slow. Even in the restless churn of galaxies, this speed remains steady, a heartbeat for all of space. It moves at about 300,000 kilometers every second. You imagine trying to count that speed, 1, 2, and already light has gone around the Earth more than 7 times. This is not a pace you can run alongside. You cannot chase it and hope to catch up. It is beyond reach, beyond negotiation. And yet, without this limit, the universe might unravel. If information could travel faster than light, the delicate balance of cause and effect could break. Events could slip from their order, tangled in contradictions. The past and future could blur, overlapping in strange ways that defy meaning. The speed limit keeps time honest. It ensures that what happens here and now cannot be felt there until the proper moment has arrived. You think of the universe as a great stage, and every particle as an actor. The speed of light is the director, setting the pace of the performance, so that no line is spoken before its time. Without that rhythm, the story might fall apart. Even gravity, the invisible tether between planets and stars, plays by this rule. When the sun warms the Earth, the light that carries its heat takes 8 minutes to get here. And if the sun were to vanish, its gravitational pull would not disappear instantly. That absence, too, would ripple out at the speed of light, reaching you as only after those same 8 minutes. The cosmos does not allow instant knowing. Everything takes its turn in the great chain of cause and effect. The more you picture it, the more it feels like a kind of music. A tempo set at the beginning of time and followed ever since. Galaxies spinning, stars pulsing, planets orbiting, all moving to the same silent metronome. The speed limit is not just a number. It is the timekeeper of reality. There is beauty in boundaries. You have seen this before in the world around you. The banks of a river guide the water into flowing shapes. The edges of a leaf define its delicate form. Without limits, the flow of water would flood and scatter, the leaf would dissolve into shapelessness. The speed limit of the universe does the same, guiding the flow of energy and matter so that it can form worlds, storms, and living beings. In your mind, you drift far from Earth, into the deep quiet between the stars. Out here, the rule feels even more profound. Imagine two distant galaxies, so far apart that their light takes millions of years to bridge the gap. The message they send each other, through beams of light, through the tug of gravity, will never come faster than that. And yet, they remain in conversation, their dance unfolding slowly over the ages. The slowness does not weaken the connection. It gives it shape. You remember that this speed limit is not a suggestion. It is not a matter of fuel or technology or determination. It is written into the way space and time themselves are built. To travel faster than light would be to break the structure of reality, like trying to step outside the edge of a shadow. The rules are not imposed from above. They are part of the fabric you walk upon. Somewhere, perhaps, an alien civilization also ponders this rule. They, too, may have built ships, sent probes, dreamed of crossing the gulf between stars, only to discover this invisible wall. And perhaps, like you, they have come to see it not as a wall at all, but as a horizon, a place you cannot pass, but toward which you can always journey. The speed limit teaches patience. It tells you that messages from the distant past, the glow of ancient stars, the faint whisper of the cosmic microwave background, take time to arrive. They cannot be rushed. They carry with them the weight of their journey. And when they finally reach you, it is like receiving a letter written long ago. The paper touched by hands you will never meet. You let yourself imagine being that letter, a photon of light born in the heart of a star. You would travel through space, unaging, untouched by time as you know it. You would pass planets, moons, dust clouds, and vast emptiness, always at the same unchanging speed. You would never stop to rest. You could not. The law that gives you life is also the one that keeps you moving forever. The more you feel this truth, the more you sense its quiet wisdom. A universe without a speed limit might be chaotic, incoherent. With it, there is order, rhythm, a deep harmony that allows life to arise and stories to unfold. You begin to understand why Einstein saw beauty here, why he described the speed of light not just as a number, but as the backbone of the cosmos. Perhaps you think limits are not chains. Perhaps they are the shapes into which freedom can pour. Without them, there would be no paths, no journeys, no way to measure the distance between where you are and where you wish to be. You breathe in the thought and let it settle. The stars above you shine not just with their own light, but with the certainty that their light will always travel in the same way. Across space, across time, the rule holds steady. And as you drift in that thought, you notice something else. This speed limit does not only govern how fast light moves, it also shapes where it moves. It is tied to the curves and folds of the universe, the invisible geometry through which light threads its endless path. You are beginning to see that. The limit and the shape of space are not separate at all. You close your eyes and imagine stretching a sheet of silk. A marble rolls across it, curving as the silk bends. This is space bending under gravity, and light must follow those curves. Even at its constant speed, it takes the winding paths. The universe draws for it. You imagine space as something flat, a still, endless stage where stars, planets, and light all perform their quiet dance. It feels natural to think of it this way, as if the cosmos were a vast, unmoving canvas. But you know now that this is not how the universe works. Space is not rigid. It can bend. It can curve. It can be shaped by the very things that exist within. The thought arrives gently, like a tide moving in slow, deliberate waves. Wherever there is mass, a planet, a star, even you. Space changes. It stretches and dips around the object, not visibly, but deeply, invisibly, in ways only the patient traveler can detect. And light, for all its speed and grace, has no choice but to follow where space leads. You picture a sheet of silk, smooth and taut, under your fingers. You press a marble into it, and the silk curves inward. If another marble tries to roll past, it will bend its path, pulled inward by this slope. This is not the marble reaching out to touch the other marble. It is the fabric beneath them that changes, guiding the motion without a whisper. In the same way, when light brushes past a star, it bends its path ever so slightly. Not because the star reaches out for it, but because the space around the star is curved, and light, like a faithful traveler, follows the road as it is drawn. Got it? Is a strange kind of humility, to imagine the fastest thing in existence still obeying a greater shape. Light does not argue. It does not try to straighten its course. It accepts the bend, the arc, the winding journey that the geometry of the universe demands. You begin to see the beauty in this obedience, the beauty in knowing that even freedom has form. You remember that light is not the only thing bound by this shape. Planets move in their orbits, not because some invisible string pulls them, but because space itself curves around the mass of the sun. Their paths are not imposed from the outside. They are simply following the valleys and hills, carved into the cosmic fabric. In the same way, the moon follows Earth, and Earth follows the sun, and the sun itself moves through the gentle slopes drawn by the mass of the galaxy. It is all motion without force, guided by the shape of space itself. For centuries, people thought of gravity as a pull, a mysterious force that reached across emptiness to tug at distant objects. But now, you see it differently. Gravity is the art of shape-making. It is not a rope tied between planets. It is the curve beneath their feet. And because light moves along this same stage, it too feels the curvature. Even the straightest beam will bow, however slightly, if the stage is bent. Astronomers have seen it. During eclipses, when the sun's glare is blocked, the stars behind it seem to shift. They have not truly moved. Their light has bent on the way to Earth, tracing the slope of space around the sun. In those moments, you can almost see the invisible hills and valleys of the universe, not with your eyes, but with your mind. That it makes. You wonder, if space can bend, can it ripple? Can it tremble like water when something disturbs it? The answer is yes. When massive things move suddenly, when black holes collide, when stars explode, they send waves through the fabric of space-time. These are not waves of light, not waves of air, but waves in space itself. The fabric stretches and compresses, the tiniest shiver traveling across the universe. Here on Earth, we have learned to feel them, to listen for those ripples. They are faint, smaller than the width of a proton, yet they carry the story of distant, violent events. It is as though the cosmos itself hums softly, and for the first time, we have begun to hear its song. You take comfort in this image, the idea that light's path is not always straight, that the universe itself is sculpted and flowing. It means that what you see is never the simplest line between 2 points. It is a journey full of curves and detours. Every beam of light, every starlit glow, is shaped by the mass and motion of the things it passes. In its journey to you, light may have wound its way around stars, grazed the edges of galaxies, or skirted the pull of invisible black holes. You realize that when you see something shining in the night sky, you are not only seeing light, you are seeing the story of its path. And so, the next time you look up, you notice the curves. Not with your eyes, but with your imagination. You sense the sun's weight pressing into space, bending it into a gentle basin. You sense the Earth's smaller curve, nested within the sun's, and the moon's path looping in a shallower arc. You imagine light from a distant star threading through all these curves, weaving through valleys and over ridges before finally touching your eyes. It is like watching a river wind through a landscape you cannot quite see, but you know it. Is there? You also think of the way this bending changes time itself. For space and time are not separate, but part of the same fabric. When space curves, time curves with it. Clocks run slower in deeper valleys, faster on the ridges. Light's journey is shaped not only by where it travels, but by when. Every path is a dance between space and time, inseparable partners. This thought slows you. It makes you feel both small and infinite at once. Small, because you are just one traveler on this curved stage. Infinite, because the same rules guide every photon, every planet, every distant galaxy. You are part of the same story, bound to the same graceful geometry. And yet, you realize that this geometry changes. It is not fixed forever. As stars burn their fuel, as galaxies drift apart, the curves shift. The roads of light are redrawn subtly across the ages. Some curves deepen, others flatten. The universe is a landscape that is always in motion, slow, patient, but never still. Let your mind drift to the farthest light you can imagine. Light that has been traveling for billions of years. Light that left its home before Earth had oceans, before your sun had formed. It has crossed a changing universe, bending around objects that no longer exist, following curves that have since smoothed away. And yet, after all that time, it still arrives. It touches you gently, a whisper from the deep past. This is when you feel the connection to what comes next. If light's path is shaped by space, and space is shaped by mass, then every star you see is part of this vast, curving map. But there is another layer, the fact that light takes time to cross this map. When you look at the stars, you are seeing them as they were, not as they are. The bends in their light are also bends in time. The thought settles over you like night mist. Every point of light above is a message from the past. Some are decades old, some thousands, some millions. You are surrounded not only by space, but by memory, by a sky made of time. You breathe in, slow and deep, and feel yourself balanced between what is and what was. And so you wait, gazing upward, ready to step into that next truth, a slow dance of distant stars. Above you, the night sky is scattered with shimmering lights. They look alive, as if breathing, but their glow began long before you were here. Each point is a time capsule, delivering the memory of its own ancient past. You watch them move, so slowly that a lifetime will not be enough to see the full arc of their journey. You step outside into the hush of night. The air is cool, still, and carries with it the faint scent of earth after darkness has settled. Above you, the sky opens, a dome of quiet infinity studded with stars. You tilt your head back and let your gaze wander. At first, the stars seem motionless, eternal. They sparkle gently, some steady and sharp, others soft and trembling in the ripples of the atmosphere. Yet somewhere deep inside you, you know this stillness is only an illusion. The stars are moving. They are all moving, each tracing its own path through the fabric of space, bound by the gravity of the galaxy's great spiral. Some drift together, in clusters like dancers in close embrace. Others wander alone, tracing solitary arcs over millions of years. Their motions are slow, so slow that in the span of a human life, they seem frozen in place. But they are not frozen. If you could stand here for tens of thousands of years without blinking, without aging, you would see the great dance unfold. The patterns of the constellations, the familiar hunter, the swan, the scorpion, would shift and dissolve as if the dancers had changed partners. Stars that once formed a straight line would drift apart, no longer aligned. New patterns would emerge, unfamiliar and strange dot. It is a dance of almost unimaginable patience. Your eyes travel to a bright, steady point high overhead. Perhaps it is Vega, or Sirius, or another beacon whose name you do not yet know. Its light feels immediate, like a voice calling to you across the night. But that voice began speaking long ago. Light travels faster than anything else we know. A cosmic speed limit you have already met in another chapter of your journey. Yet even at that speed, the distances are so vast that the message takes years, decades, centuries to arrive. When you look at Vega, you see it not as it is at this moment, but as it was about 25 years ago. When you look at Deneb in the tail of the swan, you are looking back more than 2,000 years. And when your gaze falls upon the faint smudge of the Andromeda galaxy, you are seeing light that began its journey over 2 million years before you were born. Every star is a time machine. The night sky is not a map of the present, but an archive of ancient moments, each photon a traveler that has crossed unimaginable gulfs to reach your eyes. Some of the stars you see tonight may already have changed. Some may have dimmed or flared, or even ended their lives in silent collapse. But their light is still on its way, still carrying the story of what they once were. You are not looking at the stars themselves. You are looking at their memories. A thought comes to you, gentle, unhurried. If you could stand far away from Earth and look back toward your home, you would see it as it was in the past too. From a distance of 10 light years, you would see Earth 10 years ago. From 100 light years, you would see it a century ago. Somewhere far away right now, a distant observer might be seeing the Earth as it was in the age of pyramids, or even before humans walked upon it. The slowness of light makes the whole universe an echo. An echo you can see. You take a breath and let your eyes sweep the horizon. The stars shift ever so slightly as the Earth turns beneath you. The great wheel of the sky moves, an ancient clock, each star a point on its slowly spinning face. The constellations rise and fall, changing with the seasons. In winter, Orion strides across the sky. In summer, the Scorpius curls low along the horizon. You realize that even your own sky is part of a larger dance, the Earth's orbit carrying you through changing vistas year after year. But the stars themselves have their own rhythms, far slower than your own seasons. Their paths are shaped by the galaxy's spiral, by the pull of unseen companions, by the relic motions from the time they were born. Some drift toward you, their light growing slightly bluer. Others drift away, their glow stretching red with distance. The universe does not rush. Its choreography unfolds over millions of years, as if time itself is just another partner in the dance. You imagine standing on a far-off world beneath a different sky. Perhaps the stars there would be strange to you. No Orion, no Big Dipper, no familiar patterns at all. Yet they too would be moving in their slow dance, weaving new shapes over eons. No place in the universe is truly still. And then, another thought, perhaps even softer, more delicate. If every star is moving, if every star is sending out light from the past, then the patterns you see are fleeting not only in space, but in time. You are witnessing a unique arrangement that will never be exactly the same again. This night, this particular sky belongs only to now. The awareness settles on you like a warm blanket. It is humbling and comforting all at once to know that you are part of this motion, carried along with your own star, the sun, as it drifts through the Milky Way. We are passengers together, bound to the same path. You think of the sun's journey. It moves at roughly 200 kilometers per second, circling the galaxy in an orbit that takes more than 200 million years to complete. Every living thing on Earth, every tree, every animal, every human is being swept along in that vast migration. And as the sun moves, so do its neighbors, weaving past and around each other like dancers changing positions in a grand, silent waltz dot. Sometimes, two stars pass close enough to change each other's paths, a subtle tug, a small adjustment to their steps. Other times, they simply drift by, sharing only a brief moment before the distance grows again. It has been this way for billions of years, and will be for billions more. The galaxies themselves also dance, colliding, merging, shaping each other's stars into new patterns. One day, far in the future, our Milky Way will meet Andromeda. Their slow approach is already underway, though it will take billions of years before they touch. When they do, the night sky will change beyond recognition. New rivers of stars, new constellations born from the collision. But tonight, you stand under the current sky, knowing it is only one chapter in a much longer story. The more you watch, the more you feel time stretching. Your own life seems small in comparison, a single breath in the long rhythm of the cosmos. And yet, that breath is part of the dance. Your eyes are the final destination for light that has been traveling since before your species existed. In that moment, you are both impossibly small and impossibly connected. The stars above you are patient storytellers. Their tail eyes are slow, unfolding over spans too vast to fully imagine. But they tell them anyway, one photon at a time, trusting that someone, somewhere, will be here to listen. You are here. You are listening. And the story they tell is not just about where they have been. It is about where they are going. You find yourself wondering what comes next. What patterns will form after you are gone? What light will arrive here long after your own light has faded? Your thoughts drift forward, following the motion of the stars into the deep future. Perhaps the constellations will shift into shapes no human will recognize. Perhaps new worlds will have their own names for them. The dance will go on, whether or not there is anyone to watch. A breeze moves gently across your face. You close your eyes for a moment, and when you open them again, the stars are still there, still dancing, still sending their ancient messages. You let them be, knowing you have been given only a small glimpse into their endless rhythm. And yet, there is one more step to understand, a truth about how their light itself changes as it travels, how the stretching of space can shift the very color of their song. You follow light toward the edge of a black hole, where time itself slows almost to a stop. Here, the speed of light remains the same, but your sense of time shifts. You imagine standing at the horizon of forever, where light struggles to escape the pull of infinite gravity. It is a place where space bends so deeply that the very meaning of now begins to dissolve. You are drifting now, not in the ordinary sense, not as a leaf drift in the air, or as a boat drift along a gentle tide, but in a way that feels like your very sense of being is untethered. You are moving towards something massive, something that bends reality. Its self-dot begins far ahead of you, a patch of darkness that is darker than darkness. It doesn't shimmer, doesn't glow, doesn't even outline itself against the stars. And yet, you know it's there, because everything around it seems to lean toward it, as though the universe itself is holding its breath in that direction. A black hole, not a hole in the sense of an empty tunnel, but a well so deep. That light, the fastest thing in the universe, cannot climb back out once it has gone too far. You've heard that nothing can outrun light. And yet here, at this place, even light surrenders. It's not because light slows, it never does, but because the space it moves through has been bent into such an extreme shape that the path out becomes infinitely long. You float closer. The black hole doesn't reach out for you. It simply is, and the space around it is different. The invisible threads of geometry, the same fabric that carries planets in their orbits and steers galaxies in their slow spirals, have been pulled so taut here that they curve in upon themselves. As you drift, you think about time. You have always felt it like a river, steady, unavoidable, carrying everything forward. But here, near this immense gravity, the river slows. From far away, someone watching you would see your movements stretch, your gestures drawn out as if in slow motion, your heartbeat, your breathing. Even the blink of your eye would take longer to complete. It is not a trick of perception. It is real. Time itself flows differently here. This is not something you can simply notice. It is something written into the rules of the universe. Gravity bends not just space, but time. And so you imagine standing at the threshold, the event horizon. It's not a surface you could touch, but a boundary drawn by nature. From your side, you could still see the universe beyond, the pale glow of distant stars, the faint mist of a galaxy's arm, perhaps even the familiar sparkle of the Milky Way. But for someone outside looking toward you, you would appear to freeze. You would never quite cross over. This is time dilation, stretched to its limit. For you inside, moments would still pass. Your pulse would still beat. Your thoughts would still form. But the rest of the universe would seem to race ahead without you. And light is the most faithful traveler. It moves with the same speed everywhere, no matter the path. But here, the path is no longer straight. Here, light must climb uphill, not in the way a stone climbs a hill, but uphill in the shape of space itself. Each step it takes, each beat of its journey, is slowed by the pull of the black hole's gravity. Some of it escapes. Some of it doesn't. The light that tries to leave from the very edge, the horizon, becomes stretched, weakened, its color shifting into the deep reds of surrender. This is gravitational redshift, the signature of light that has struggled against the pull of gravity and lost part of its energy. Along the way, you imagine watching a clock just outside the horizon. From far away, its ticking would grow slower, and slower until it simply stopped, frozen in a moment you could never reach. Yet from where the clock is, time still flows. It is only the connection between here and there that is broken. This edge is not just a boundary for light. It is the place where space and time trade roles. Beyond it, the inward pull is not just strong, it is inevitable. Every path forward leads inward. Every moment moves you closer to the center. And yet, there is something peaceful here. The black hole is not violent. It does not chase. It simply bends the rules so deeply that all who come too close must follow. You think of a mountain lake, still and black under the night sky. From above, the surface looks calm, featureless, but the depth is there, hidden, holding secrets. You can't see. The black hole is like that, silent, still, but unimaginably deep. Somewhere far below the horizon lies the singularity, the place where all our equations fail, where our understanding of space and time breaks apart. It is not a thing in the way a planet is a thing. It is more like a boundary of knowledge, a place we cannot yet describe. But tonight, you are not here to solve it. You are here to drift, to let the scale of it wash over you. You are here to watch the way light bends, the way time changes. Its pace, the way reality folds into shapes you never imagined. The stars far beyond still shine. Some of their light curves around the black hole, taking paths so precise, they loop almost completely, circling before escaping back into space. Some light falls inward, lost forever to the depths. And you think, the universe is not just vast, it is curved. It is flexible. It allows even something as constant as light to take different paths, to be delayed, to be pulled into stillness. Your thoughts drift to the shadows such a place must cast. Not shadows in the simple way. A tree casts a shape on the ground, but shadows where the absence of light is absolute, where even the idea of light is cut off. You begin to imagine those places. Not just here, near this black hole, but throughout the cosmos. Regions where light never comes, where darkness is not. An accident, but a fundamental truth. And you wonder what stories those shadows hold. You drift into the spaces where light does not go, the shadowed corners of the universe. Here, darkness is not just an absence, but a quiet keeper of secrets. Even in silence, the laws of light are present, tracing the edges of what cannot be seen. You begin to listen to the darkness, and you find it is not empty at all. You leave the great curve of the black hole behind. Its gravity fades, but its lesson lingers, that even light, tireless and swift, can be stilled by the deep bending of space. That thought stays with you like a whisper, and it guides your gaze toward another mystery. Not the bending of light, but its absence. At first, you think of darkness as a nothingness, a pause between the stars. But the more you drift, the more you see it differently. The night sky is not an ocean of blackness pierced by points of light. It is a vast, textured landscape, one that light and darkness shape together. You remember how a shadow forms back on Earth. The street lamp glows. The post stands in its way. And on the sidewalk, a dark shape blooms, a space where the light could not go. It seems simple, but even here, in the quiet of the cosmos, the same rules apply. Darkness is a map. It shows you where light has been stopped, bent, or absorbed. In its own way, it is just as revealing as the brightest star. You begin to notice that there are many kinds of darkness. There is the gentle dimness of starlight, fading with distance. The quiet fall-off of photons that have traveled for millions of years. There is the sharp darkness of a planetary shadow, where sunlight is blocked in an instant by a solid world. There is the soft veil of interstellar dust, where clouds of fine particles drift in the cold, sipping light from every star behind them. And then, there is the deepest kind, the darkness that comes when light is never allowed to begin its journey. This is the darkness of the cold, empty spaces between galaxies. It is the silence between cosmic notes, the gap that gives the music of the universe its shape. You glide toward one such place now. It is not frightening. It is not hostile. It is simply still. The stars you saw moments ago fade behind you, swallowed not by a wall, but by distance and dust. Here, the light is so faint that your eyes, if you had them in this drifting form, would not see anything at all. But still, the universe is not truly empty. Particles drift here, lonely and slow. Invisible fields stretch across the void. And somewhere far beyond the reach of light, gravity still shapes the future. You realize something strange. You are surrounded by light even in this darkness. It is just not light you can see. Some of it hums in the long waves of radio. Some pulses in the invisible flicker of infrared heat. Some is relic light, the faint afterglow of the universe's birth, stretched thin and cold by the expansion of space. This is the cosmic microwave background, the ghost of a time when the universe was young and full of fire. It washes over everything, a constant whisper from 13.8 billion years ago. Even here, in the deep shadow, it is present. You begin to think of darkness less as a void and more as a hidden dimension of light, one where your senses need help to reach. Astronomers use instruments like translators, giving form to the wavelengths we cannot see. A radio dish listens to the whispers of ancient hydrogen clouds. An infrared telescope feels the warmth of dust warmed by newborn stars. X-ray detectors catch the screens of matter heated to millions of degrees around black holes. In each case, the darkness blooms into detail. Shadows become landscapes. Silence becomes a song. But even when you cannot uncover the hidden light, the shadow still speaks. When a star's glow is dimmed by an unseen planet passing in front of it, you learn the size of the planet from the depth of the dip. When the light from a galaxy is blocked by a drifting cloud of gas, you can study the shadow to learn what the cloud is made of. The darkness shapes the edges of understanding. It occurs to you that on Earth, shadows are fleeting. They slide across the ground with the sun's motion. They vanish under the midday glare. But here, some shadows last millions of years. The light that would have filled them is simply not there yet, or will never come. You drift through one. Such shadow now, the long night cast by a distant world as it circles its star. You are far from both star and planet, but the geometry is perfect. You are aligned with the shadow's center. It stretches into space like an invisible tunnel. Inside it, the starlight is faint, filtered, thin. Outside, just beyond the edge, the full glow of the star returns. It is a reminder that light is both generous and precise. It travels in straight lines until something changes its course. And when it is gone, what remains is shaped not by chance, but by the same laws that guide planets, tides, and seasons. As you drift further, the darkness thickens again, not because the light is blocked, but because the light is lost in time. You find yourself in a vast stretch between galaxies, where even the nearest star is so far that its photons will not arrive for tens of thousands of years. This is the universe's true silence. Here, nothing rushes. Here, distance is the ruling force. Here, even light seems slow. You pause, or perhaps time itself feels paused, and listen. There is no sound in space, not the way you hear on Earth, but there are rhythms. The slow spin of galaxies, the drift of interstellar clouds, the quiet pull of gravity linking everything, even across impossible distances. The silence is not empty. It is full of the unspoken. And then you notice, even in the shadows, you are never truly alone. The laws of light are here, sketching the edges of what you cannot see. Every shadow tells you where light has been and where it cannot yet go. Every silence tells you that motion still exists, just beyond your senses. You think back to the black hole, to the way light was bent, delayed, silenced. That was one kind of darkness. This is another. Both are written in the same language. You wonder what lies at the very edges of this darkness. If you traveled far enough, would the shadows thin and give way to new stars? Would silence be replaced by the hum of cosmic activity? Or is there a place where even the memory of light fades completely? The thought stays with you, a question suspended in the quiet. The shadows seem to lean closer, as if listening too. You begin to realize there are places in the universe where darkness itself glows, not invisible light, but in other, stranger colors. Light born from particles colliding in deep space. Light that comes from nothing more than the dance of atoms at absolute zero. Perhaps shadows are not the end of light, but another way for light to begin. You feel the pull of that idea, the way it draws your attention toward the invisible forces that shape the cosmos. For in every shadow, there is a trace of what made it. And sometimes, those traces belong to something you cannot see at all. Something hidden, but powerful. Something everywhere. Light will never tire. Long after you sleep, it will continue to race across galaxies, carrying the universe's stories. You rest in the comfort of knowing that even though light has a limit, its reach is unending, and you are part of its eternal path. You close your eyes, but the story does not stop. Somewhere, far beyond your awareness, light is still moving. It does not pause to take a breath, does not glance backward to see where it came from. It moves forward, always forward, with a certainty that nothing else in the universe can match. You imagine it now, a thin, delicate beam spilling out of a star's heart. Perhaps it was born in an ordinary yellow sun, its journey beginning with a violent dance of atoms, fusion pushing them together until they could no longer hold their energy inside. From the furnace of that star, light is freed. It surges outward to layers of plasma, scattering, shifting, bouncing off particles that slow its path but never stop it. Years might pass before it breaks through the surface, and when it does, it finds the vastness of space waiting, a silent road stretching forever. That light does not know your name. It does not know that one day, after traveling for thousands or millions of years, it might find its way to your eye. And yet, when it does, it will carry with it a memory, not of moments, but of distance. Every photon is a traveler, its history written not in words, but in the length of its voyage. You turn the thought over in your mind. Light is not endless in speed, but endless in persistence. It will not race ahead without limit. Instead, it will keep moving until something stops it. A planet's surface, a telescope's mirror, the thin blue shell of an atmosphere. Even then, it is not truly gone. Absorbed, transformed, it becomes heat, electricity, or the gentle chemical signal that triggers a thought in your brain. You are, in a way, made from these meetings. The warmth of sunlight on your skin, the green life of leaves that feed on photons, the colors you see when the day breaks. All of it is light, caught for a moment before continuing its endless path. You picture the great web of the cosmos. Every galaxy a whirl of light, some blazing with young hot stars, others dim with the glow of older suns. Between them stretches darkness, but even here, light moves ancient, thinned out waves left from the birth of the universe itself. The cosmic microwave background, a faint afterglow of creation, still hums quietly in every direction, telling the story of a time when the universe was new. You drift further into the thought. Light is the messenger of time. Every beam you see is a letter sent long ago, its delivery delayed not by slowness, but by the enormity of the space it must cross. When you look at a star 100 light years away, you are reading a message, written a century ago. When you gaze at the Andromeda Galaxy, you see something that happened over 2 million years in the past. And yet, even as you observe this ancient light, new light is being sent, messages you will never live to receive. Some journeys are so long that they will outlast not only you, but entire civilizations, entire species. Entire worlds. The endlessness of light is not measured in infinity, but in outlasting nearly everything else. A single beam could leave a star, travel across a galaxy for tens of thousands of years, and still continue on, sliding past the edges of what anyone will ever see. You imagine riding on one of these photons. No time passes for you. The speed of light is the speed at which time stands still. From the photon's point of view, its departure and arrival happen in the same instant, though from your point of view, it may have traveled for eons. It is a strange duality. Light is both fleeting and eternal, a moment and a lifetime in the same breath. You think about the edges of the observable universe. There are places so far away that light from them has only just reached us now, nearly 14 billion years after it began. Beyond that, there may be more galaxies, stars, entire regions of space, but their light has not had time to arrive. They are hidden, not because they are dark, but because the universe has not yet delivered their message. And still, light continues outward from you too. From the moment you lit a candle, turned on a lamp, or smiled in the sunlight, tiny traces of that light have been escaping, carrying the memory of your moment into space. Most of it will scatter, fade, be absorbed by dust and gas, but some of it may go on. Perhaps it will travel for 1,000 years before finding a world where someone else, curious and watchful, will notice the faintest flicker and wonder where it came from. There is something humbling in knowing that you are not only a receiver of light, but a sender. You are part of the same network of travel, a participant in the endless relay. In this way, the journey of light is not just the story of stars and galaxies, but your story as well. It is the warmth of your childhood mornings, the golden edge of sunlight on the horizon, the deep colors that spill across the sky after rain. It is the faint, distant glow of a galaxy you will never visit, and the tiny spark from your own world that may one day touch the eyes of another. You let this thought slow your breathing. The scale is vast, but it does not feel overwhelming. Instead, it feels like a blanket, soft, endless, wrapping around you in the knowledge that you are inside something that moves forever. Even when stars fade, their light continues. Even when galaxies drift apart, photons keep going, crossing the growing emptiness. In the far, far future, when most stars have burned out, the universe will still have light, the afterglow of its beginning still whispering into the darkness. And perhaps that is the most comforting truth. Light does not last forever, but it lasts long enough to carry everything worth carrying. It stitches the moments together, turning time into a path you can follow, even from billions of years away. You imagine the last travelers, ancient, stretched out photons. Their energy is fading, but their journey is not yet done. They move through a universe grown cold and quiet, still telling the story of where they came from. They do not hurry. They do not stop. They simply go on. Somewhere in that endless journey, there is a glimmer that once touched you, on your face, your hands, in your eyes on a bright afternoon. It is still going now, carrying the shape of that moment away from here, perhaps forever. And as you rest, you realize that this is what light offers. A connection that outlives you, a path that keeps moving when you can no longer walk. It is a quiet promise, not of immortality, but of continuation. That light will never tire. And even as your thoughts drift further from waking, you know that its journey will go on without you, a soft, unbroken line stretching into the deep. And so our light drifts on, past the rim of our sight, past the edges of the maps we have drawn, into the unending dark where new stars are born. We leave it there, still moving, still carrying its quiet stories. Perhaps somewhere, someone else will see it years from now and wonder where it began. If tonight's journey brought you calm, a soft like will let me know. Subscribing means you can return here whenever the night feels wide and still. And if you share this with someone you care about, our light will travel just a little farther. Until next time, rest well and dream deep beneath the turning sky.